So now let's launch VPCs and private and public subnets, and finally using these VPC, let's launch elastic load balancer and divert the traffic between many instances and find out how application load balancer works. So I'm going to start with VPC wizard. You can also go and use from the your VPC section, but I'm gonna use the wizard to launch the VPC, and I'm gonna select a public and private subnet, and it's gonna create this architecture. It's gonna create public subnet, private subnet, and also NAT. So there's a public subnet here, there's a private subnet. I'm gonna select the public and private subnet. So I'm gonna specifically launch the public subnet under availability zone A, and public and private subnet under availability zone A, which are same. So the ALB would be launched in public subnet, and it will reference instance which are part of private subnet. So I'm gonna use we can use either NAT instance or NAT gateway. Let's launch let's use internet gateway instead. Allocate IP. So there is already an elastic IP present. I'm going to use that. I'm going to create VPC. So what we would now have is we would have VPC. Under VPC we would have two subnets, private and public subnets, but we have only one availability zone as of now. So let's go ahead and create few more availability zones so that ALB can divert the traffic between different availability zones. Since we are adding NAT gateway, it might take few minutes to launch by itself. So let's wait for a few minutes. So basically we are going to launch many instances within many private subnets across different availability zones. Hence we would see how the traffic is diverted in the demo. So now the VPC is created. Let's go and create subnets for different availability zones. As you know, VPC spans across different availability zones. We have private subnet and public subnet here. I'm gonna create more subnets. So I would say public subnet 2, I'm sorry, and use this, and I would choose different availability zone. I would set aside a block for this. Okay, so this would be a public subnet. And I would create another private subnet. Different availability zones. To make this a public, let's go and check the route tables. So there is a route table which has NAT attached to it, but we were looking for something else, right? So we were looking for internet gateway attached to the public subnet. Just to be sure, let me, so I'm going to change the route tables which are attached, so it is associated with the NAT gateway. So let me edit the route table. So yeah, so let's go, and so now the public subnet 1 and 2 are both associated with internet gateway, and private subnets are associated with NAT gateway. Cool. So next, let's go and launch the instances. So let's go and launch instance. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to launch instance. In fact, let me launch two instances in the private subnet, one, and you can see that public IP is disabled here. I'll be adding the user data. Let me copy the user data. So okay, let's add storage. Let's add tags. Instance 01 or on A. Before we launch, let's keep the security group as is. We'll change the security group later. Let's go and review. So we have a launch wizard 1 security group, and instance details. Let's go and change the instance detail, check the instance detail. What I'm trying to check here is it is assigned to a subnet group 143. So what this means is let's go and check the subnet and which availability zone belongs to before we move further. So I'm just trying to filter that. So it's a private subnet, belongs to availability zone 1A. Cool. So everything seems to be okay, but before we move on, let's say let's name this security group 1A. So I just launched 2 instances. You can see 2 instances are getting launched now. Let's go ahead and launch 2 more instances in different availability zone. So I'm gonna launch 2 instances, in fact this time a different private subnet. So I'm gonna paste the data. Sorry. So I'm gonna still keep the the configuration as is. We might have to change this at a point of time. Basically we might have to change that to point to elastic load balancer security group. So yeah, so 2 more instances are getting launched here. So it's getting launched. So let's see, let's change the name to 01 and 02. So it goes here 01, just to distinguish between the instances. Okay, so all are getting initialized. Meanwhile, let's go and create a load balancer. I'm gonna create a load balancer. I'm gonna select application load balancer as of now. So I'm gonna name ALB. So I'm gonna add a different protocol, HTTPS protocol as well. So I'm gonna select both the availability zones that are available. I should select the public subnet for this because the ALB has to be launched in public subnets. So for the one public subnet which you're choosing, corresponding instances, whether it is in public subnet or private subnet, can access the node within this public subnet. So any instances which are part of this availability zone can access the ALB. So I'm gonna select the certificate here. So I'm gonna go with the default certificate. I'm gonna create a new certificate here. Let's say ALB for now, ALB security group, and we're gonna create targets now. Let's say target group 01, and our target types are instances, and let's say index.html as our path, and let's register the targets now. So there are 4 targets which are out there. So let's add them all. Next. So let's create. So target group, it's getting registered and listeners are created. Now let's go back to the instances. Oh, let me change this again. 02. Okay. Let's change the security group. Details here. So I'm gonna add all traffic or HTTP traffic in particular from ALB security group. So I'm gonna need to change this as well. So HTTP traffic from ALB security group. Configurations are done. Let's go and check the target group status. It's getting initialized. So the health check is done on index.html. So let's grab the DNS name. So I've copied the DNS record. Still getting initialized. So let's see the instances. There are 4 instances which are running in healthy condition. So you can see that there are no public DNS names or a public IP address assigned. So ALB is going to communicate through to our instances through the private DNS or private IP address. So there are totally in 4 instances, and let's see how the, so you can see that all of them are healthy. So let's launch the, so you can see here it says hi there from the IP 1151. Now I'm gonna load this. You could see that there's a different IP address. So there is, again, it redirected a different IP 151 again. So you could see how it's changing. 130, 165, 26, 151. So you saw how different targets are being addressed, or traffic is directed to different loads based on the load. So let's go and configure the DNS name to Route 53. So I'm gonna go to Route 53. And here it says, as you can see, it's not secure, right? So we're gonna make it secured. So it says it gives you a warning. So let's attach proper certificates to it. So I'm gonna go to this DNS name. I'm gonna take ALB stack and I'm gonna save the record. So using godemo.d, you could see that I could access this. Different IP address. So let's bring down few instances and find out how it will handle, right? So let's go to some instance and terminate those instances, or probably stop those instances. I'm going to stop an instance here. And let's see what happens with the target group health check. So you can see here it says it's unused. So it says it is in the stop state. So if you see here, the target would be redirected. And let's see, let's use https colon. You could see that the traffic is secure now. ALB absorbs or terminates the HTTPS traffic, and it would direct only HTTP traffic to your instances. And let's see the IP address. So 151.30.26, 151.30.26. So one of the instances down. So I'm going to bring down two more instances, and let's see how it responds. Stopping two more instances. Now you see only one IP being redirected. So this is how the elastic load balancer work. You could also do more of routing based on the path as well. Since I have not added more functionality to the web server, or there are no more pages there, I am not going through the demo as of now. But you could go to load balancers, listener, and you could add more rules if you need. So you've already added HTTP, so you need to check the HTTPS edit. I'm forwarding this particular request to this, so you could change, you could add more actions if you need, if you want to authenticate, and many more things can be done here. You can select a different policy if you like, all that. You could also integrate AWS config and AWS WAF, as I told earlier. Yeah, that's all for this particular video. I'll show the auto scaling group how it is achieved in another video. Thank you.